In a continuation of the previous sessions, in the 8th session, we agreed to first explain the array and then move on to the other points. Hello and good morning again, dear students. I hope you had a good time. So, what is an array? If you have worked with software like AutoCAD, then you are relatively familiar with the array. An array is a possibility for you to copy your own volume or your own shape as many times as you want and in the form you want. So, where do we get the array from? We select the shape and in the Tools section and the Array option, you see that there are 3 dots in front of it. When you select the options that have 3 dots in front of them, a window opens for you and has settings in it. So I choose the array. So this array window has a series of options for X, Y, and Z here, and the opposite is the same. And 3 rows, if you look carefully, include move, rotate, and scale. Meaning the first row is for moving, the second row is for rotating, and the third row is for scaling and scaling. So the second part, which says type of object, has the same familiar options as copy instance and reference. And the third part, which says array dimension, it's related to 1-dimensional, 2-dimensional, and 3-dimensional for your work. What is meant by 1-dimensional, 2-dimensional, and 3-dimensional is to do it in the X direction, in the Y direction, and in the X, Z, and Y directions. That is, in 3 axes and in 3 directions, which is why you can see the number here. The total of this array means you can see the number of objects after they become an array. Now the 1-dimensional option is active for you, and 10 is written in front of it. So you have 10 in the scene. It has a preview section that if you turn it on, it will show you a preview in the scene to see the result. After you are satisfied with the result, you can click OK or Cancel. If you check the Display from box, especially if your volume is a complex volume and there are too many of them in the scene for previewing, or anything that may make the scene heavy or cause your system to malfunction, you can click Display from box and see the preview result as a box, meaning it will put each of your volumes as a simple box. And this will help you see the result more easily and quickly. To return everything that happened in the scene to its original state, you can click Reset All Parameters. So let's try these. I selected the volume, and now you can see that it has given us 10 numbers in 1 dimension or in 1 axis. I turn on the preview and put it in instance mode. Well, we previewed, added 10 and added instances. But we still see one shape in the scene. But in fact, we don't have one shape in the scene, but 10 that are on top of each other because x, y, and z are 0 relative to each other. Let me explain here. We have an instrumental and a total. What's the difference between these? Let me move the x value a little. We had 10 in the scene, right? We space each one 1 meter apart. You see that in the x direction they are 1 meter apart. We can do this in the y direction as well. We can space there too. And we can do this in the z direction as well. But we have 10 shapes. Of course, I reset this y to 0 again. We space 10 shapes 1 meter apart in the x direction. So how far apart is the last shape? It should be 10 meters apart in the x direction. That's the difference between instrumental and total. If you look closely at the x here, it's showing us the number 10. With these arrows, you can see that if we click on the arrows, they move in the opposite direction. Now we have 10 meters in the x direction. That is, if we put x there as 1. We'll distance each of these from the previous one. But if we put them in the total, we'll say how much difference the last one is from the first one. So the difference between the total and the incremental is that the total gives the final result. And based on that last one, we can make the adjustments. And in the incremental, we adjust each one relative to the previous one. So I'm going back to the same incremental. I'm going to the second mode. Well, nothing happens here unless I put this one back on 10. We had 10 in a row, each of which was added 10 along the y or second axis. So how many should we have? "10 by 10 in the total. We see that we have 100. But where is this 100 in the scene? So here we have to know again that each of these 10 are stacked on top of each other. We can come this time, and from here we have to create that difference. Then there, if we change the y again, it's the same. The first axis is what changes. Let's go to the 2D, and here if I change the x, you see it changes in the x direction. And if I come to the right of the y, I didn't move the y there to come here. And you can see better. Here I change them 1 unit in the y direction. Well, I don't change them in the z direction either. So you can definitely guess that it's because of the third axis. Well, we have 10 by 10 in the scene. We have 100 of them here. So we go to the third axis. And on the third axis, we say we want 10. Well, how many do we have now? We had 100. We added 10 to each. So each of them became 100 by 10. So we have 1,000. And again, we can move them in the x direction, y direction, and z direction. but I'm just moving them 1 meter again in the Z direction so that you can see these 1000. So now we can see 1000 here. All 1000 of them are here. When I do the array like this, I'm reminded of these animations where they build a robot and put them in an army with a precise and perfect distance. One of the uses of the array is there. So I think you've become familiar with all the options of the array. Practice with them and use them in the right place where you could use them. I'll click OK. And now since I move these to instance mode, I'll apply a bend that's handy. And see that on one of them that I made changes, well, it's going to be a little difficult to make changes because there are a lot of them, and it might be a little difficult for the computer to process. You can see that the change is applied to all of them. So, I'll delete these additions. I'll press the Z button to zoom in. There's a button here called Zoom Extended Selected that if you press it, does the same thing that Z does for us when we activate a scene and select a shape. But there's another button called Zoom Extended All Selected that if you press it, brings you the shape you selected in all viewports. This corner says Zoom Extended All Selected. Well, this is also from Array. Let me explain about finding objects. I think I said this before, but well, if you remember, we're in Edit. Of course, we've hit Selected by Name in this section. But you can also find it in Edit, which has Select By and Name, Layer and Color, which you can find based on the color of the layer or its name. When we press this button or press H in the scene, or press this Select by Name icon here, this window will open for us, and we can write the name of that volume here, if we know it, and find it in the scene, or find it in the scene from the options that I explained before. For this session, we have 2 more options that I will try to explain very quickly. We can hide a volume in the scene. We have 2 volumes here, and we can hide this in the scene. How? After you select it, you can right-click. This right-click menu is a menu that can be useful to you in many places. And when you select the shape, you select it with a left click, and then when you right-click while it is selected, it will bring you a 4-item menu. The right and top part of which is related to hide, freeze, and isolate. Here you can see that there are different options for hide selection, hide unselected, unhide all, and unhide by name. If you click unhide by name, it will hide for you according to its name, and you can choose the names to hide for you. Unhide all will unhide all the things you hid in a scene. The top one is for unhiding. Hide unselected keeps the shapes that are selected in the scene and hides the rest for you. And hide selection hides the shape that you selected in a scene. For example, if I click this option, we will see that this shape is hidden for me in the scene. These options work for you depending on the action you want to perform in the scene. For example, if the scene is busy, you will recognize whether to isolate, hide, or freeze, and you will perform that action. Another thing that can be done is in the display section. Look at the modifier in this section above. There is a monitor mode. If you go to the display section, you will see the display text. Here, you will see the display color text, which is based on color. Here, there are two hide options. It has a special hide window for you. These two windows that are located below each other that say hide by category. That is, it hides all the geometries, all the shapes, all the lights for you, according to their category. Now, if you check it, it will do that for you. Or you can click all here and hide all for you. Or you can click name and hide none, or those that are against your choice in invert. Or this part is like the right-click options that say hide selected, hide by name, hide by heat. If you enable this, it will hide any volume you click in the scene for you. Or you can click unhide all or unhide by name, which I want to click unhide all now. Or I will click unhide all to bring back the volume that I hid. Well, this is for hiding and unhiding in the scene. The next option is freeze, which we have here. This freezing has exactly the same options as hiding. This section is about freezing. And since we don't have anything frozen in the scene, this section of unfreezing is turned off. I'm going to freeze a volume. You'll notice the difference between freezing and hiding when you freeze it. You can see that this frozen shape is neither selected nor moving. But I can see it in the scene. Well, I can come here and work with these options, and I can also click freeze unselected, freeze by name, freeze by heat, unfreeze all, unfreeze by name, and unfreeze by heat, which now I'll click unfreeze by heat and click to unfreeze the volume. You also have another option, which is isolating, which has several ways to isolate. You select the shape, and you can right-click and click Isolate Selection. Or click Isolate Selection in this section. I said that the first of the three icons you have below is related to isolate. and you can click Isolate, and Isolate helps you to have a single shape in the scene. Isolate the shape you select. It blurs the rest of the scene for you. And you can focus on the volume you isolated and do your work on it. Especially in places where the scene is busy, it can help you a lot. And that's the way to get back. Or you'd have to click this option again. As I said in previous versions of 3ds Max, it is in the shape of a light bulb. I click it, and it comes out of Isolate again. Or the next way is to isolate. Alt plus Q. You click the shortcut, Alt plus Q, and isolate it. And another way to get out of Isolate is in the right-click under Isolate Selection and Isolate. Note that the Alt-Q shortcut is only for isolating, meaning you can press Alt-Q and press it again. I'm doing the same thing now, and it has no effect, and it just isolates you again. So there were 3 ways to enter and isolate, which were this bottom, and right-click, and Alt-Q. And there were only 2 options to get out of isolation. One was right-click, and then isolate, and one option was this square inside the box. Or, in older versions, the light bulb that's here. I hope you enjoyed this program. Practice. And I hope you'll be successful in your work. I'll leave you to God Almighty for another tutorial.